Hello and welcome to our digital parents evening. I am Sophie. I'm parent to two teenage sons, but I'm also Deputy CEO at Parent Zone. For those of you that don't know us, we are a social enterprise and we specialise in supporting digital family life. Thank you so much for joining us today for this special Safer Internet Day event. Obviously at Parent Zone, it's Safer Internet Day every day, but it's really good to have this focus this week. And it does seem especially relevant this year, given how many events like this are now happening online. I'm sure you're getting used to sessions like this now, so hopefully you're able to see and hear okay. We would love to hear your thoughts, so please do join in on the chat. If you're viewing on a phone, you'll need to access it through the YouTube app to ask a question. But don't worry, if you can't do this, you can still ask me a question by emailing members@parentzone.org.uk. This will be on the screen at the end, but also my colleague Giles is here on the chat and he will be posting helpful links in there. We'll be looking to run for about 30 minutes today, and hopefully you'll have time to stay with us all the way through. But if you can't stay, please don't worry, you can always watch back later. So just use the same link and you'll be able to see the session all the way through. So why are we having this session? We really want to be offering you as much support as we can in this really challenging time where we're trying to manage lockdown life for our families, but still keep a handle on the things that matter. Compared to this time last year, all of us, children and parents, are probably online way more than we were, to the point where that some days it's probably hard to draw a line on when we're not connected in some way. And this can be really great. There are many positive impacts of tech, which are even more important now than ever. And we've probably all developed lots of new skills and digital interests. And there's lots to celebrate about us being more connected than ever. But obviously there are risks that come with that too. And the more a child is online, they are more potentially exposed to more risk. And for us and our children, there may well be uncertainty and fears for the future, and this makes some normality even more important. So, what am I going to be talking about? It'll be mainly about keeping an eye on the things that matter when there is so much change and uncertainty. There are still some really important things to remember about your child's online safety. Now, obviously, remote learning is a massive thing right now and may have caused potentially the odd raised voice this year. We are running a live YouTube show every Thursday night at 6 p.m. In that, we have advice and tips for making things run more smoothly. We'll be looking to solve your tech issues and ease the pressure that your children and you will be facing. The link is in the chat and hopefully you can join us then. So there will be plenty of opportunities for questions and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. I will take a pause and have a look from time to time, but Giles is also there and he'll be able to respond in the chat. He'll also be posting links as he's already started doing. So what is it that we've learned this year? So we've been delivering loads of virtual sessions in schools during lockdown and really been thinking about how to help children adjust to being back in this situation in remote schooling the second time around, and really to help parents as well. I know that there is an awful lot of juggling that's going on. My heart really goes out to parents who've got primary school age children. I have a 16-year-old son at home and one at university, and pretty much I have to make sure he gets up. But I know that there's a much more of a commitment to parents with primary school age children, and to be here 10 months after the first lockdown is really frustrating, but also completely out of our control. And your child is probably feeling that as well as you. And while we can get angry and frustrated, and that is important to do every now and then, it's good to look at what we've learned, especially when it comes to tech. So an increased use of tech for work, for socializing, Connecting has probably brought you a bit closer to your children's world. You may have got more involved in some of the things that they love to do. So maybe you've been playing Among Us with your children. They may have been playing it offline, as many children were doing in the autumn term as well. And this crossover with digital gives us lots of ways to connect with our children that we might not have felt we've had time to do, or maybe have avoided before. An online connection has been completely vital, but it's also a bit exhausting. Has anyone experienced the so-called Zoom fatigue from an overload of video calls? And if we're feeling that, just imagine what it's like for children as well. There has also been an increase in misinformation that has been really worrying and having an effect on children. And I'm assuming that perhaps some of the rules that you've had about tech have either been torn up or at least relaxed a lot. And we've become even more important in our children's lives, as they don't have as much face-to-face access to teachers as they have in the past. And we have all been doing way more juggling than usual. So, have your children learnt new things that will help them when they go back to school or in the future? And I'm not just thinking about kind of IT computing skills, but also skills about how they communicate with each other online, their critical thinking skills, maybe even just talking to you more about their favourite things online. Have they experienced any difficulties? Any problems with friendships, difficulties in getting a balance between screens and other activities? And what about you? Have you learned any new skills yourself? That might be that you've had to get to grips with Google Classroom or Seesaw or Purple Mash, or maybe you've been using tech to connect much more with your family during lockdown. I certainly have been doing that. I now speak to my parents every day, which I never used to do. It's the old commute time has now been turned into family time, which has been incredibly valuable for my family, but also for them and that connection. So, what is it that you need to be thinking about right now when it comes to online? As you probably know, the most crucial thing is going to be trying to get the balance right for learning, for socializing, for connecting. Whatever your lockdown arrangements are, it's likely your children have been spending loads more time online. That is not necessarily a bad thing. But it is something that I'm sure we've all felt guilty about, and I am not going to add to that. And it's not a simple balance to get right. They may be missing their teachers, friends, all of that face-to-face interaction, and finding a couple of hours or however long they're doing of remote learning exhausting, as well you might as well if you've been helping them. And you may find that home learning is taking way longer than that. And you're trying then to balance their screen time against the unwinding activities they like to do, like TV or gaming or chatting to their friends. And it could be that firmer boundaries will work in your family, or being more flexible, really dependent on your child. So some children might need more routine to feel safe and might want to be away from screens. Others might need more relaxation time, and that might come from screens. I don't want you to feel guilty about any of this. We are in the middle of a global pandemic, and we have to do what works for our children. And the important thing is that we keep an eye on those risks around what our children might be seeing online, what they are doing, and how others are behaving towards them, and how they're behaving. You are the expert in your child, as you are in the offline world. So keep an eye out for any changes. You will know that behaviour is communication, but that might be harder right now. It might be harder to work out what's causing changes in behaviour, as they've likely got a lot on their plate. But you'll know when to make yourself available for a chat, when to check in to see how their remote learning is going, all of that non-pandemic parenting that you have always done. So, what is the key checklist to know about what you need to equip your children with to help them feel confident and safer online? So first up, really important, does your child know how to report? So it's likely that they're using new platforms, potentially with new people in their online communities, and they're going to be having less contact with other trusted adults outside of their family, the sorts of teachers and other workers that that they may have had more informal conversations with. So our first recommendation would be to check those reporting options on the platform, the app, or the game that they're using. If you do this with them when they're young and check that they know how to report people and content, this is something they'll carry over when they're older. And then definitely worth reminding them when they're older that these tools are there to help them be in control of their life online. And reporting doesn't have to just be the formal routes. Talking to you about things and working out how to respond will be really helpful too. But reporting to providers does also help to protect other users, so I'd always recommend that you do both. And I just wonder if you know if your child can have an informal chat with or message a teacher if they want to talk to them. We do find that sometimes children find it hard to talk to their parents, especially if they feel that they have done something wrong or broken a rule. So giving them someone else, a trusted adult outside of the immediate family that they can talk to, like a teacher, is an avenue that they might want to use. A bit hard to bear as a parent sometimes, but really important, particularly at the moment with that lack of face-to-face time. Critical thinking skills are absolutely crucial at the moment. So the theme for today's Safer Internet Day is an internet we can trust, and that means who and what to believe and understanding people's motivation for sharing content. We know that there has been an awful lot of misinformation online about COVID, about vaccination, some of which is really dangerous. And we know that there is less moderation on a lot of sites. We are still not back to pre-COVID levels, which means that there's potentially more risky or unreliable content available and stays up for longer. So you can help by discussing with your children what they might have seen or heard online. And that information could come from anywhere. It could be a news story, or it could be a post from a celebrity that they really admire. It could be something someone said in an online game. Being able to discuss this kind of stuff will help your children begin to start to think critically and question what it is that they see and hear online automatically before they believe it, share it, or like it. What they read online and hear from others could well be worrying for them. So reassuring them will be really important. And you can also direct them to trustworthy, age-appropriate news sources like BBC Newsround or BBC Bitesize, where they can find out more information on things that are going on in the world in a way that they can understand. But there is still so much that's unknown, so sometimes just listening to their worries will be key. I know that that is often easier said than done. Our first instincts are often to want to fix things for our children, but sometimes listening and comforting are just as important. So I've talked briefly about balance already, but we are all having that struggle to find the right balance. They are having to deal with a lot at the moment, as are you. And I really want you to be kind to yourself and just allow for these changes in routines while we're in this strange situation. It won't be forever. And actually, we have to remember that we are in the middle of a global pandemic and that we are all looking to get that balance right. So we need to be kind on ourselves. I'm not here to make you feel guilty about the amount of time your child is sat in front of a screen. And we need to remember that social contact is absolutely vital for children, and they are having to deal with having way much less face-to-face contact with their friends and their peers, which means that online connections are even more important. And I've seen this in my son. He used to game an awful lot pre-COVID. He still games a lot, but he will never game on his own now. So gaming for him is that contact with his peers, with his friends. He often comes off and says, "Oh, we were just talking about how much we all miss each other," which I think is very sweet. He's 16. So it may be that your child is spending an awful long time playing an online game, but it could be that that game is allowing them to have that crucial interaction that they need with their friends. But obviously, we're still all looking for things to balance out with other activities. We have ideas for offline activities in our lockdown hub. Giles is going to post a link to that in the chat to give you some ideas, particularly with half term coming up, about some other things that are not screen based, or they start on the screen and they go off somewhere else. So it could be something like you going online and searching up for a recipe for the food that you've got in your cupboard or your fridge, and then taking that activity offline and cooking with your children. It is likely that your rules have changed. Ours certainly have. It may be that your children are potentially using apps, games, and platforms that you might have said no to before, but you've actually agreed to now so that they can have that connection with their friends. Also, they're having to get to grips with video calling, potentially for education and for maybe checking in with the grandparents. My advice would be to do what works for your family, but do it as safely as you can. So try and dip into their online world and find ways that you can help and support them. If you're worried about your child speaking to strangers on Among Us, for example, could you make time for a local family game or help them set up their own private game? And getting to grips with privacy settings is really important. We have guides on everything from Zoom to TikTok, Minecraft to Roblox, and Giles will post that in the chat now. And when things do go back to normal, I'm trying to be positive here, remember to reintroduce your old rules slowly. You can be firm but flexible, and your children will probably need time to adjust, but you should let them know that things will be rebalancing. And finally, I just want to come back again to online friendships. These really can be vital connections during this time and probably after as well. And it's important to find ways to make sure your child has them, but stay tuned to any change in their behaviour that might mean that they're struggling to manage these connections. More time at home with us is potentially meaning that we have more time to chat together. And what children have told us is that that online safety chat needs to be part of everyday conversations, and works much better if it's over the washing up or when you're on a walk, rather than sitting down and having the online safety chat. So I can see there's been lots of action in the chat, and so I'm just going to have a quick look. If anybody has any questions, please do let me know. Lilo, I can see that your older child uses WhatsApp. We have a great parents guide to WhatsApp in the Parents Hub, so please do have a look at that. Yeah, Adriana's talking about Among Us. I think that can be really difficult. Again, we have a guide to Among Us, which helps you kind of restrict who your child is playing with. It's very hard when something like Among Us comes along and it becomes almost like a viral trend, particularly amongst young children, and everybody's playing it. And certainly as a parent, I've felt that pressure in the past to get games when I haven't felt completely comfortable. But at the moment, I think if you can have a look at the guides that we have for Among Us, have a look at how you can control and manage who it is that he's playing with to make it the most appropriate, the kind of safest experience for him that you can. I'm hoping that will help. Okay, lots of chat about Google Classroom. Yep, I think I'll be really interested to see how we can carry over these skills. I'm sure that we've all learnt so much over the last 10 months that we're putting into good practice again now. But actually, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that for some people, online sessions work much better than they do face to face. You know, something like this means you don't have to find childcare. You're out of action for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour in the afternoon. You can still be monitoring what your children are doing, and actually maybe it gives us a bit more flexibility to think about how we can connect online. I have been struggling, I must admit. I'm very much a people person and have really enjoyed being in schools and meeting parents and answering questions. But I do think we are very lucky that we have these ways to continue to connect. So I would like to make sure that the kind of message that you take away from today is to equip yourself with some understanding about maybe just one of the games, excuse me, apps or platforms that your child loves. Go and have a look at the parent guides, get really familiar with them. Ask your child some questions about what it is that they love about the game, who else they know that plays it, understand it. If you have time, sit down and have a look through it and have a play with them as well. My kids used to love me playing games with them because they could always beat me. They were so much better at these things than I was, but actually it was a really good bonding experience if you're able to do that, and it gives you a bit of a window into their lives. Oh, I've lost my slides now. Here we go. So the school or service that recommended this session to you is a Parents Own member. They will be able to share more Parents Own resources for you. So please do ask them what it is that they can provide for you. But also you can contact us for help. So we are safety channel partners for Facebook and Instagram, and we can report to the safety teams at TikTok, Snapchat and Roblox if you need us to. And we will find out who to speak to if you need help on a different app. I'd also just like to tell you briefly about one of our new online support tools called Ollie. So Ollie is a progressive web app for children aged between 8 and 11. It works on all browsers and it can help them with friendly advice on many topics, from COVID and school to friendships to being online. And you can also get parent advice to help them with the things that worry them. The link to Ollie will be in the chat, so please do have a look and share it with your children. So that is it for this evening. Please do remember to join our Remote Schooling SOS show on Thursday. This week is all about online safety. So if you're thinking about parental controls or whole home solutions, can't even say it, on your from your internet service provider, please do tune in to hear Dave and Vicky give all of their advice to you. It was a pleasure to be with you this evening. I hope you have warmed up. It's been a very cold day here, and enjoy your evening. Thanks so much for joining.